Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Janet Yong, and in my channel I share about Feng Shui, Bazi, entrepreneurship as well as personal growth, especially in the areas of communication success and motivation. Now, in today's episode, I'll be talking about Feng Shui tips on how you can utilize it for your office such that you can maximize your success for personal growth. And this is one of the most common voted topic as well in YouTube when I posted up the polls previously. Now, in the last few episodes and series, I've been talking about personal growth and how you can build multiple streams of income. What did I do? I utilized Feng Shui and tap on the energies around me to basically propel me to better success, as well as to ensure that I stay motivated in building the additional stream of income, or even when writing my books, in tapping on the right kind of energies. I've shared quite a lot of it in my 2021 forecast, especially on the auspicious and inauspicious sectors. So if you want to, you can actually click on this link where I'm pointing to watch that particular episode. Without further ado, let me share with you the Feng Shui tips for tapping for your office for better success in the year 2022. See you in the next segment. Hello. Welcome to this segment where I'll share with you Feng Shui tips for your office to maximize your luck, especially for this year. Now, when we're looking at Feng Shui for the office, what applies itself? Basically, we can look at our physical environment. We can also look at the facing direction based on our core number, that means the year that we are born, as well as 8 aspirations, or what we call the 8 mansions formula. And also if you have the entire office setup where it is the natal star, flying star formula, and if not, you're just looking for your office room or office desk itself, we can utilize the small tai chi of your desk or your room for flying star as well. When we talk about tip number 1, which is the physical environment, what is crucial? What is crucial is ensuring that we have a good solid wall behind us, like what I have right now, showing you part of my office where there's a wall behind me. Now, sometimes when you're seated in the office desk or room where you don't actually have a wall, then just ensure that you do not have a door or a window directly behind you. And I will show a little bit more what I mean little later on in this particular episode. Else, you should be activating the north, and why you should activate the north, I'll explain utilizing the 8 aspiration or 8 mansions formula. It would be great if you can not to face a wall, and if you have no choice because you're seated at a desk where there's a partition, then you can simulate bright hall by having a garden or flower picture, as what I'm showing you here. This particular picture shows like a path of gold. So you can basically have this kind of image in front of you representing a bright hall as well as a big bright path for you to move towards. Now, the other thing that is quite critical, where I see quite often when I do consultations for my clients, either for their home office, their entire office, or just their office desk itself, is to watch out for that physical poison arrow, especially if you're seated there for more than 3 hours a day. Because like I mentioned in many of my videos about physical poison arrows, be it where you're sleeping or your main door sector, if you have a sharp corner pointing at you all the time, most times it will represent basically obstacles when you go out, especially if the sharp corner is in front of you. If it is behind you, usually it can bring petty backstabbing or people talking behind your back, which is what you don't want to do. So what are the examples of physical poison arrows? It will be, for example, if you're seated below a beam, because what will happen is each of us, if you are looking at human beings, are energy beings. So if you have basically beams above you suppressing on you continuously over a period of time, it can represent stress and health issues as well. Columns, like I mentioned earlier on, especially those directly in front of you, can bring obstacles and challenges or mental blocks to you when you're doing your work, and sharp edges posed by open cabinets or corners. And the other thing is, if you are seated, it's good if you can sit not too close to staircases, especially one that either comes down from the top of a building or staircases that goes out to the main door. Those will have pretty fast energies. Similarly, the concept will be escalators as well, where the energy is moving on too fast. And corridors. What I meant by corridors, it's best not to sit at the end of a corridor, because similarly, when you have energy rushing towards you, you will usually not feel very secure and stable at your seat itself, which then contributes in the long term to instability and insecurity in your job. Now, what are some potential hazards if you are seated within the office itself? Most times in the office, there are many electrical equipment. So these electrical equipment at times can cause impaired immune system, bringing us health issues. For instance, if the photocopier is too close to you, or if you're seated too near power plants or generators, because what you will find is if you take a compass, a magnetic compass measuring, you will find that the measurements are usually quite unstable. And when we look at photocopying machines, if you sit too close to it, because there will be chemical emissions which can cause health issues as well. And the other thing that I find quite critical, when you want to have a clear mindset, a mindset for growth and success, it is crucial not to have clutter around you, because you cannot think clearly. So whether it's your office desk or your office room, it is crucial not to have too much clutter within your room or office. Now, the next part that I shared earlier on was about tapping on your good directions. Then depending on your qua number, we're basically looking at East group or West group people, tapping on your best or good Feng Shui directions and try to avoid your not so good directions. And how do you get your directions? You can go to bazicalculator.janetyong.com as shown in this link here to check your favorable directions when you generate your Bazi chart. Now, when we look at facing direction and facing your computer, we are basically looking at facing the computer screen, or if you're meeting with someone, sitting facing forward. That's what I mean by the facing direction. And you should be tapping on, like I mentioned earlier on, one of your good directions, and should never face your worst or total loss direction. On top of that, on an annual basis, I think it's also crucial not to face the Tai Shui position for the year. And for this year, the year 2022, it is the year of the tiger. Therefore, it is northeast tree, which is the third portion of the northeast direction of 45 degrees. That means the last third 15 of the northeast direction that you should not face. Why this is the case? Because most times when you face Tai Shui, which is basically the energy that is created with the alignment of the planet Jupiter, Earth and Sun, and it creates this huge force such that if you actually face it, you will basically be overthrown, or you have to do things over and over again. So even if it is one of your good directions, clients often get confused. Why is it that northeast is one of my good directions, I cannot face it? Even if it is your good direction, because of Tai Shui for the year, you can face northeast the first 30 degrees, but the last 15 degrees is best not to confront Tai Shui for this year, the year of the tiger. And when we look at the simulation of bright hall, of course, I mentioned earlier on, it's best not to sit facing a wall, but you have no choice. You can actually simulate it either with a garden picture in front of you or a computer screen that provides the image of a great path or an open path, such that your mind and your thought flows will be great. And the last bit is, do not sit with the door behind you or near escalator or staircase, like I mentioned earlier on, because the energy is not very stable. You constantly feel insecure, therefore affecting your performance in the longer term. And also not sit under a beam or lower ceiling, as mentioned earlier on, and not sit with a column or sharp corner pointing at you. Now, next, we would like to talk about 8 aspirations, which is usually looking at how you can segment your office room or your office desk into the various different sectors that you can activate. So usually for the office itself, where we're looking at career or generation of wealth, we will usually look at the North sector, which is more for career stability. That's one of the reasons why I say you activate the North sector if you really cannot have a wall behind you. And if you are looking for that recognition luck, promotion luck, South sector will be crucial. And when we look at wealth, if it's wealth generation, it will be the Southeast sector. If it is profit and loss, wealth accumulation, it will then be the West sectors. As well as if you're looking at having great teamwork, good relationships, or that helpful people, like Northwest is important and Southwest is important. If your boss is a female boss, then Southwest will be crucial. If your boss is a male boss, then Northwest will be crucial for having that helpful people luck. Then Southwest also generally governs relationship amongst your team members, or if you're a female boss, then it's also a great place to ensure that you activate for leadership and authority. Similar like that if you are male, and you can then activate the Northwest sector itself. So this is an example of a picture of your desk where I basically marked out the 9 different grids. So in this case, this person is seated facing east, and once you have the 9 grids marked out, you can basically mark out all the rest of the sectors and put in the relevant items, which I'll share with you what to do in the next slide. So when we are looking at activating aspirations, where you basically utilizing the 5 element cycle, and most times, unless it's poison arrows, we are usually looking at the productive cycle. What does it mean by the productive cycle? Productive cycle is shown by the red arrows in this particular diagram, meaning water producing wood, wood producing fire, fire producing earth, earth producing metal, metal producing water. We'll utilize the materials that are suitable to do that. And when we look at the 8 aspirations, like I mentioned earlier on, what are the sectors? Let me revise you one more time. It will be, if it's looking at career stability, the North sector. South would be for recognition and promotion. Wealth would be Southeast, especially for sales or wealth generation. West will be for profit accumulation, and for relationship and helpful people, it will be Southwest and Northwest. And if you are in the education industry or writing the book, publishing, then the Northeast sector is important as well. So let me give you an example of how you activate North. North is that of the water element, and as mentioned earlier on, to basically activate North, we usually utilize the productive cycle, in this case, metal producing water. So what is metal? It can be objects that's made of metal, bronze, the colors of white, silver, gold, or the circle shape. You can also use the same element itself in terms of actual water. Therefore, an aquarium in the North sector is good. Colors of blue, black, grey, or the wavy patterns. Of course, based on my previous experience, if let's say you really want stability and you do not have a wall behind you and you need to activate North, you can use the tortoise or dragon tortoise made in metallic or bronze materials, as well as the black color or the black obsidian crystal. Then if I want to activate for recognition luck, fame luck, people remembering my name, then the South sector would be crucial, and the element of South is fire. So therefore, to produce fire, we will utilize wood. And what is wood? Wood can be plants. Most times I will use leafy plants. I will not use cactus or bonsai because cactus has sharp needles and bonsai is stunted growth, which I wouldn't want. You can also use wooden objects, colors of green and dark brown, the rectangle shape. If I want to use fire, then it will be a light, electrical appliances, or the colors of red, pink, orange, or the triangle shape. So of course, symbols and objects that represent recognition will be like phoenix, the peacock, birds, rooster is also great, and it would be great, of course, if it is wood, wooden, or the red colors as well. Now, the next thing I'd like to touch on is how can you utilize the flying stars for the year, okay, if you're not doing for the entire office itself, to benefit yourself, basically. So what we look at is basically where are the auspicious sectors, and for this year, it will be the North, which has the career and success star, the Northwest, which has heaven luck, helpful people, Northeast has wealth, and number 4, good relationship, writing luck, and romance, or we're not looking at office romance, is just generally having good relationship with people. 9 in the south is magnifying whatever existing energies that are within the office, which will only be known if I do an audit or if you know the natal flying star chart of your office. Now, then what we're looking at is basically the inauspicious sectors. So what we would like to do is ensure that we are careful what documents we place and where we spend time in the office itself. So East will have the argumentative energies, the center is misfortune, 7 in the west brings about obstacles, accidents, maybe sometimes doing things multiple times because you make mistakes. And 2, being in the office, it may not necessarily bring about illness, but it can bring sometimes mental block because of lethargy as well. So in this particular slide, what I'm showing you is an example of an office room. After a person take the direction, this person is actually facing south, okay, and then I mark out the 9 grids and marked out where are the auspicious and inauspicious sectors for the year. So for instance, in the case marked out right now in pink, the northwest, the north, the northeast, the south, and the southeast sectors are the great sectors this year. So it will be great for the person who's working there to put their important documents there, and if they are in sales, then to basically track their sales, have their sales invoices in these portions of their office. And for the blue color highlighted areas, these are the inauspicious sectors for the year. So we're using the small tai chi of the office room or office cubicle in this particular case. This is where the person should not basically have important documents. So even flying stars, you can actually utilize the small tai chi and help you to have better success and avoid mistakes, or basically reduce the kind of challenges for yourself in this new year. Now, let's talk about flow in terms of an office. If you are able to design an office yourself or able to select a seat in the office, I think it's then crucial to understand the flow of energy when it goes to an office. When chi or energy is blocked, generally affects relationship and working harmony within an office space. Now in this case, because the door opens to a corner, every single day a person walking into the office will be facing an obstacle, and therefore you see this narrow path here, it may not be great for people working within that environment. Now, what is a better environment? This is an example of a better environment where the office door opens up to a much wider space or foyer before it goes to the various different cubicles. And then when we are looking at desk positions, if you are choosing your desk location, if you can, it will always be best located diagonally across the door, because it then allows energy to flow slower to where you are seated. And of course, like I mentioned earlier on, it's best to basically not sit with the window behind you, but if you have no choice, ensure either you cover the window with blinds or curtains, or you can activate the north of your room for career stability and support. And the other one is, if the person's desk or your desk is too close to the door, or like I mentioned earlier on, whether it's a staircase or escalator, then the energy flow is too fast and constantly you'll be disturbed, and therefore you cannot really concentrate on your work that well. And of course, the worst kind of position is when you sit with your back towards the door. Now this is especially if this small office door leads to the main office door and to a staircase and lift lobby. Sometimes clients ask me if this is their bedroom door, how does it matter? If it's your bedroom, because the activity is much less, and especially if your bedroom door is not pointing towards the main door and the staircase of the lift lobby, most time it's not that crucial. All you need to do if you're working from home then is to just close this particular door. If you feel safer, you can also activate the small knob to ensure that you feel better. This is basically the end of today's session, where I share with you on how you can tap on the Feng Shui energies within your office to propel you to the next level of success or build the additional stream of income. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and in the next episode I'll be touching on a topic that I've been asked a lot recently. What is the facing of my apartment block. And why is it important to understand the facing of your apartment block? I'll see you in the next episode within the next 2 weeks. See you then. Goodbye.